All right, so as promised, I'm going to do a video about the Saturn return experience. Dun dun dun. Now, the Saturn return has gotten a very bad rap in astrology, as far as it being like this time of doom and gloom when, everything comes crashing down on you and, you're left with nothing, and you lose your boyfriend, your girlfriend, you lose your money, you lose your house, you get divorced, and it's like this huge scary reality check. And I'm here to tell you that that's pretty close to accurate. um, you do lose a lot of what you have because you kind of just have to start over from scratch. um, so your Saturn return happens between the age of 28 and 30. Those 2 years are crucial to your life and your development in the astrology world. Now, there's like this huge stigma around turning 30. Oh my God, I'm turning 30. I'm getting old. What am I going to do? Oh my God, my life is over. I can't party no more. I have to get serious. And yeah, you're damn right you have to get serious because you can't spend the rest of your life partying, drinking, and acting a damn fool. It's just what it is. You got to start building something in life because you got to start thinking about later in life. You got to start thinking about your children. You got to start thinking about the future. You got to start thinking about your legacy. What are you going to leave to the world? It's time to get serious, people. You've had your whole 20s and your teens to act a fool, to make mistakes, to do dumb shit. But now you're 30 years old and you cannot make those same dumb mistakes that you used to make when you were 20 years old, out partying, getting drunk, and having hangovers. You just can't, okay? It's time to start looking at your career. Do you even have a career? Do you know what you want to do with the rest of your life? These are important questions, and Saturn is the planet that comes around and puts the pressure on you to answer these very important questions in life. And I like to look at it two ways. For the mature minded, ambitious, serious, mindful, mature people out there, your Saturn return isn't going to be that bad for you. It's just kind of going to be like a restructuring of, or a reminding you of what needs to be done to keep on the same track that you're going, just putting a little bit more pressure on you to maybe hurry it up a little bit, revise some of your plans so you can get there quicker, so you can be more efficient. But you're already pretty much on the right track, so you don't need that much correcting. But to those of you, like I said, that are kind of, have the party mentality, that don't want to grow up, that, live with your parents, live off your parents, live off of whoever, and not make a life or a living for yourself, this is going to be a very harsh time in your life because the reality checks are going to be thrown at you left and right. And I like to look at it as being confined or even being put into a jail cell to contemplate and think about your life, because Saturn is all about contraction, contracting in, like confining to a small space so that you can reflect upon yourself. Jupiter is the planet of expansion, which basically means expanding out past your boundaries, expanding out past what you've previously known, and broadening your horizons. So this is definitely not a time in your life when you're broadening your horizons. That more so happens after your Saturn return is over, from 30 and beyond. But during your Saturn return, everything gets smaller, everything starts contracting, and you're kind of put in this small space so that you can reflect upon the choices that you've made in your life that maybe weren't the best choices for you, and why or how you got to where you are, and how you were going to get out of the situation that you were in. Because we were all created for greatness. We all had a plan when we came here. We all had a blueprint for our life. And usually what happens is when you get around, your late teens and your early 20s, we kind of get thrown off of our life path because there's so many outside influences and we're just becoming adults and we want to do what we want to do. We don't want to listen to nobody. And sometimes we lose sight of our original plans, our original goals of what we set out and we wanted to do when we were kids. And so this is a time when you are reminded of those things. A lot of people have to deal with their parental issues, growing up, your upbringing, the mind patterns that were ingrained in you will be tested, will be evaluated. Your belief systems will be questioned and evaluated. Is this really who I am? Is this really what I believe? Or are these my parents' thoughts? Are these the people, my friends' thoughts? Are these the people that have been around me? It's definitely a time of slimming down and cutting the excess fat out of your life, which means cutting the unnecessary people out of your life, cutting the unnecessary relationships out of your life. If you're in that stale, dead end ass relationship that you knew was over a couple of years ago, but you're staying in it out of comfort, yeah, that's pretty much probably going to end during your Saturn return, because Saturn is basically asking you to get serious about your life and to be realistic, because Saturn is the planet of realism. You know, he's not about the flights of fancy and the fantasies like Neptune or like Jupiter, who just wants to think, oh, everything is good, everything is perfect. No, Saturn's like, what's really going on underneath all this glitz and glamour? What's really going on, underneath, deep down inside? What's really going on? Um, and so, it's time to get real with yourself. And it's really a time for you, it's kind of like a time of quiet contemplation where you are forced to be by yourself in some type of way so that you can be alone with your thoughts, be alone with your feelings. Um, and so it's definitely a time of extreme maturity. Um, I know for me, Saturn sits on top of my second house naturally in my natal chart. So wherever Saturn is positioned, what house Saturn is positioned in, and what sign that Saturn is positioned in, you definitely want to know that information, because he's going to be revisiting those aspects of your life during your Saturn return, and it's going to be up for evaluation. Um, and you may lose a lot of things. It is a time of loss, but it's not a time of losing anything of value. It's a time of losing anything that was unnecessary within your life. And down the line, you will see from a mature point of view that you didn't actually need those things. You know what I mean? You just thought that you needed them. I know now that I'm completely out of it because my Saturn is in Scorpio. And if you guys knew about Saturn and Scorpio for the last 2 years, it was a really dark time for everybody, not just Saturn and Scorpio people, but for people that have Saturn and Scorpio, it was like a double whammy for us, because Scorpio is a dark energy and Saturn is a dark planet. So when you put those two together, you get a lot of depression and you get a lot of underworld activity going on, and a lot of rebirthing, a lot of resurrection on a spiritual level, and a lot of having to face those ugly things that you do not want to face within yourself. So if you have your Saturn in Sagittarius in your natal chart, you are going through your Saturn return right now, and it's just started for you. So I just want to let you know, hold on. It's going to be a long ride. I don't really know exactly the specifics of the Saturn in Sagittarius archetype, exactly what type of energy that is. It might not be as dark as the Saturn in Scorpio energy, but it's definitely going to be, regardless of the fact Saturn return is, like I said, a time of deep reflection, and it can be a time of loss. So just be aware of that. My experience after my Saturn return has been amazing. As soon as Saturn left Scorpio, it was like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. I was like, oh my God, I immediately felt the energy shift. Like, that energy, that heavy energy was gone. I changed a lot of things about myself, as far as, like I said, my mind and my thought patterns have changed a lot recently. So I changed a lot of my beliefs, because I was the type of person that, Saturn and Scorpio used to be like really fixated. Ugh, curl is sticking out. Really fixated on topics or really fixated on my ideas, and I like cling to like my ideals. Um, and that wasn't good for me because you can't get fanatical about certain things because your mindset and your beliefs can always change. And sometimes they're outworn and they're outdated and they no longer serve you. And you really need to realize when it is that time and when you need to let that go. So, people that have Saturn and Scorpio like me, you know what I'm talking about, how we can be fixated on stuff and we're very dogmatic sometimes and we believe in stuff wholeheartedly and we want others to believe in it too, and this is the way it is and it can't be any other way because that's Scorpio. It's very black and white. There's no gray with Scorpio. So I've kind of learned to just be more open-minded, and to know that there is other ways to think. Like my way of thinking may make a lot of sense and it may be brilliant, but it's not the end all be all. And I just need to chill. Like you can have beliefs, you can believe in something and still chill and be, nonchalant, or not even nonchalant, but just be cool with it without having to prove yourself or make other people believe in what you believe in. And so I had to learn that. That was good for me. Now I've just learned to go with the flow a lot more. Like I'm not as stubborn. I just let things happen as they are. Like I kind of have like this faith now in the universe and in, God, to whereas I've been brought through so many fucked up situations and it's always ended up turning out amazing for me and being something 20 times better than I imagined. So I kind of have this trust now that I know that things are going to work out, even if I am going through a quote unquote bad time or dark time or whatever. I always know that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm just more chill now. I'm way more chill because I used to be super intense person when it came to like my beliefs or my emotions or whatever. And, I've just been taught to just kind of let go of that. Just chill out, man. It is what it is. Life is what it is. And it's going to be what it's going to be. So relax. Is basically what I was taught. Um, so, yeah, I mean, for those youngins out there who haven't went through your Saturn return, my advice to you would just be to start early. Start when you're like 25. Start eliminating unnecessary bullshit out of your life and trying to deal with your issues. Because if you're like me, which I'm the type of person who held stuff in for a really long time and held grudges against people from like my upbringing and when I was growing up, and kind of like became like a cynical person in a way. And I didn't even deal with any of like my emotional issues until my Saturn returned. So I had to deal with everything all at once. And it was just like, oh my God, I felt like I needed to be in therapy, especially the first year of my Saturn return. It was just like, oh my God. Because I was just dealing with all of this shit, this emotional shit, all for the first time in my life because I was a person who suppressed everything, who pushed it away, who pretended like it didn't exist. And when my Saturn return came up, all that shit just came up to the surface. And I was just like, what? Like, I can't even believe all this shit was being suppressed within myself. Like, I never dealt with a lot of stuff that happened when I was younger. And I had to deal with everything. I had to deal with every single thing that I suppressed since a child, since I could remember. Every emotion, every slight, every grudge I had against somebody, everything. I had to reevaluate all of my beliefs. I had to reevaluate why I felt the way that I felt toward people, why I felt the way I felt about myself, why I felt the way I felt about relationships, why I felt the way I felt about money, why I felt the way I felt about love, everything, because we kind of grow up with these set beliefs, but we don't ever evaluate or look at why do we think that way? Why do we believe that? We don't even question it, we just believe it. And so I had to question everything in my life. Why do I think that way? Why do I have these beliefs about money or this and that? And then I had to realize, oh, that came from my parents, or oh, that came from my brother or my friends, or you know, these were not my original thoughts. And, you know, just everything is just a whole process you go through in your mind of reevaluating where things come from. And that's basically dealing with your subconscious and clearing it out and putting new positive things in there. And that is why I feel liberated, free now. And there's so much more space in my life now because I got rid of so much junk that was weighing me down. And so I'm just free to create now. And that's how I feel. That's why I'm so excited about my business, because it's like, okay, yeah, now I cleaned out everything. I have space, I have peace, I can be creative now because I got rid of what was not authentically me. And that's what the Saturn return is about. So please drop your comments. Let me know about your experiences with the Saturn return. Let me know if you're going through it now. Let me know if you had Saturn and Scorpio like me and what kind of stuff happened to you, if similar things happen, if different stuff happened. Let me know. I want to hear about it. All right.